All right, it's time for world politics, and we'll see what's happening on the political land front. And all along those lines, I'm sure a lot is taking place in the political land front and seeing what's going on in that space. I had the pleasure earlier today of going to the Hayti Heritage Center and seeing Representative Clyburn talk. He was definitely talking about the first eight, a book that he has out now about the first eight congressmen that were in South Carolina representing during Reconstruction. And he also talked about some of the current things in the politics as well as his own work in the political landscape, including being on the a whip and all along those lines. So he definitely talked about the political landscape both then and now and everything like that. So it was a great conversation between him and former Representative G.K. Butterfield and all along those lines. Mickey Michelle was there and a number of other folks were there as well. And we might be putting some clips about that at a later time and all along those lines. So it was a great conversation had over there at the Hayti Heritage Center. I was glad to be part of it, helping to get Courtney Crowder to bring this lovely event to the town, and seen a lot of representatives like Zach Hawkins, Judge Earls, and a number of others as well that were there, including Mark Simeons and, of course, Ike Green and a number of other ones that were there also. So definitely a lot going on in the space, and always good to see folks that are carrying on the legacy, and definitely remembering a lot of folks that were even talking about one of my mentors, Howard Fuller, who is still very much active in the Wisconsin area, as well as some that are no longer around, like Ben Ruffin and a number of others as well. So definitely it was good to hear that conversation. Andre Van definitely kept things moving along. And of course, the discussion was great. And Courtney Crowder did a great job of organizing this event. I understand in another few minutes, they'll be in Greensboro at the Greensboro Civil Rights Museum and all along those lines. And so lots going on in that space. And I was glad to be part of this event and to see how it was going in that space and along those lines. So hopefully folks will be learning a lot, and they'll be definitely even Mickey Michelle was talking about the importance of us understanding our history and understanding education. Trump attacks allies and signals Iran war may end without opening of Hormuz. And he said this 2 days ago. Trump tells aides he's willing to end the war without reopening the Hormuz. So Trump officials acknowledge they can't promise to reopen the Strait of Hormuz before ending the Iran war. Trump lashes out at UK and France, telling allies that USA won't be there to help you anymore. An American journalist has been abducted in Iraq, this being the journalist Shelley Kettleson. So definitely that's what folks are talking about, as well as a U.S. journalist has been kidnapped in Iraq. Al Monitor calls for release of contributor Shelley Kettleson and all along those lines. So that's something that people are talking about as well. And Israel passed a law allowing the death penalty for convicted Palestinians. So dangerous escalation. World reacts to Israel passing death penalty law and all in that space. So jailed Palestinians fear death by hanging without due process under new Israeli law. So that's something that people are really talking about as well, as the Knesset passed a death penalty law for Palestinians convicted of deadly acts of terror. Russian oil exports plunge as drone strikes cripple the Baltic ports. So huge fires at Russian oil facilities following Ukraine strikes. Satellite images show Ukrainian drones strike Russia's Yust-Luga port again. Sources say oil terminal hit. Russia expected a windfall from soaring oil prices, but Ukrainian drones are devastating the exports and all along those lines. So that's definitely something that people are talking about as well. So hopefully folks are following this story as well. And France is refusing to Israel's use of its airspace to transfer U.S. weapons for Iran war. Europe pushes back on some military operations as concerns over Iran war are mounting. Trump tells allies, go get your own oil from the Strait of Hormuz. And France refused to allow U.S. planes headed to Israel with arms to fly over the territory. So that's something that people are talking about as well. And top Brussels officials urge Europeans to work from home and drive less. EU may revive 2022 energy crisis measures in response to the Iran war. EU is calling on member states to curb oil demand and prepare for prolonged disruption. So Europe is faced with near empty gas stores just as the war hits supply. And Iran remains a stubborn foe after absorbing massive U.S. Israeli attacks. So Iran's attacks drones on as the U.S. is at risk of losing the war. Iran's regime remains defiant despite absorbing massive blows from Israel and the U.S. So definitely that's something that people are talking about as well. And Pope versus Trump, Pontiff takes aim at U.S. policies. So after Pope's remarks, the White House defends praying for U.S. troops, and Pope Leo urges Trump to find the off-ramp to end the Iran war. Contra Pope Leo, Catholic Just War Doctrine supports Iran strike, is what is being reported in the Providence Mag, and all along those lines. And first thing, according to the Guardian, Kuwaiti tankers hit by Iranian drone attack in Dubai airport. So day 31 of the Middle East conflict, Trump again threatens to blow up Iran's energy sources. And Iran strikes fully loaded oil tanker off Dubai as gas reaches $4 per gallon in the U.S. And definitely lots going on in that space. Cyber warfare is set starts to get personal in war between U.S., Israel, and Iran. So Israel-linked groups hacked into at least 50 security cameras in Israel and hacked hospitals and hidden spyware. Iran conflict shows how digital fight is ingrained in warfare and how the Middle East conflict reshapes the global cybersecurity landscape. And Trump shares videos of bombing in Iranian city of Isfahan. U.S. drops bunker buster bomb on Iranian ammunition depot. And U.S. attacks Iranian nuclear attacks while Tehran hits oil tanker off the Dubai coast. U.S. attacks Isfahan in Iran as gas price averages, as I was saying earlier, have topped near $4. So they're actually around $4 or a little bit more, and all along those lines. Meta, Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube aren't fully compliant with the child account ban. That's being reported by AP News. So social media firms must better enforce Australia under 16 ban, Watchdog says. And social media giants not fully compliant with child account ban, according to Australia, is being alleged. And 2/3 of under 16s with accounts on Instagram, Snapchat, or TikTok kept the access despite the ban. So it looks like a lot of people are having a hard time getting their kids to deal with the ban and all along those lines. Going to play a couple of commercials and all in that space, and then we'll be back with some more news. Zelensky urged to curtail Russia energy strike and proposes trust. Zelensky says allies asked him to scale back attacks on the Russian energy, and Ukraine to ask U.S. mediators to pass on the Easter ceasefire offer to Russia. And allies sent Ukraine signals on reducing strikes on Russian oil, Zelensky says. And Rachel Reeves tells the G7 accelerating shift to clean energy is the best defense against energy price shocks. G7 ready to take necessary measures to ensure energy market and all along those lines. And Lagarde calls dissent out on Iran damage during G7 video talks and all in that way. And humpback whale is stranded again as its odyssey off the Baltic coast stretches on. And Japan deploys its first long-range missiles. So Japan looks like it's getting into the long-range missile space as well. So a lot of this is some interesting news stories and everything like that. I'm going to bring in a couple of news clips that we've had in the past, including one about drug use overseas. And then we'll be back with some more news very shortly here on World Politics.
Over two in five drug abusers were found to have first started their habit before they turned 18, and that's according to a survey conducted by the Institute of Mental Health, the first of its kind. Now, it involves more than 6,000 respondents. Let's take a look at some other findings. Well, more than half of the respondents cited cannabis as the first illicit drug consumed, and this is followed by what is commonly known as ecstasy. There was also a small number of people who took methamphetamines and heroin. The most frequently taken drug is cannabis. This is followed by ecstasy and methamphetamine, which we told you about earlier. That was taken by close to 20% of respondents. Around 1 in 10 cited heroin as their drug of choice.
We are very concerned that drug abuse starts at such a young age and at home, where young people should have parental supervision and be safe. Given the long-term impact of drug abuse, we need to do more to address this. We have increased efforts to educate the public, especially youth, on the harms of drugs and counter misinformation and proliferation of liberal drug views on foreign media and social media.
Now, we spoke to a former drug abuser. Let's hear what he says.
A snip here and a cut there. 34-year-old Jabez Toh is hard at work editing promotional videos, but his life today is very different from his youth.
I remember when at the age of 15, I met with a bunch of friends, which is part of a secret society. One day, I was introduced by a friend to taste some drugs. So out of curiosity, I took the drugs and tasted it.
And soon Jabez was craving his next hit and was willing to do anything to get it.
At the age of 16, I get caught of drug trafficking, which I don't even know the consequences at all. So to earn money to satisfy my craving of drugs, because I need the money to buy drugs also. So I go and sell and earn some profit.
After multiple stints in and out of prison, Jabez was eventually able to get clean from drugs with the help of the halfway house where he's currently working. To help more youths whose stories are similar to Jabez's, efforts will be reinforced. At an annual Central Narcotics Bureau work plan seminar, preventive education, especially for young people, came under the spotlight.
The youth must be taught to recognize misinformation when they see it. Getting into even a soft drug, so-called soft drug, which is, say, cannabis is thought to be, can also be very harmful because it does permanent physical and mental damage to your health, and also it can act as a gateway drug, which will then allow people to graduate on to other more potent substances.
And as such, the event also included information on anti-drug advocacy and an exhibition on cannabis and its harmful effects.
Well, like Mr. Toh, of those who had taken drugs, around a fifth of them cited curiosity as a top reason. Others believed taking drugs might help them with problems they faced. Just over 10% took drugs under the influence of friends. But most surveyed still found illicit drugs to be very harmful when consumed, especially compared with smoking or alcohol use. That's regardless of how often a drug is taken or the type of drug consumed.
So I got a question. So I'm Rex with CyberTalk TV. Regarding the Thacker Pass mining project, Lithium Americas is the mining company there. It's a Canadian-based company, but their number one stockholder is Chinese-based Ganfeng Lithium Ltd. So regarding security and national security, why is this happening? We're told that if we migrate to green energy, we'll have security here in the United States, energy security, yet we have foreign companies that are actually mining the lithium, as well as those companies have Chinese investors.
Which
Thacker Pass lithium mine?
If that, the only thing I can tell you about that, there's no way that they should be able to get any credits whatsoever to be used towards the 3750 for automobiles, and that's what I think we were talking about, or the 3750 that would combination to 7500. That was very clearly what we were doing, is basically depending on North America and free trade agreement countries, and we expanded that to some of our allies.
Right.
Okay. Then you have 4 countries of concern. You've got China, you've got Russia, you've got Iran, you've got North Korea. Any of their involvement to where they're involved in what we need for our country, if they have any control or they're profiting by it, should absolutely be disqualified.
So yeah, but I don't know if anybody's investigated Lithium of Americas to see who their major investors
It's
are.
brought to our attention. I'm not my staff. I'm sure that my energy staff. I'll have CJ right back there, put him on top of that.
Okay, and it's Ganfeng Lithium Ltd. out of China. Thank you.
If you'll give us your card, and we'll get right back.
Well, and the broader point here is that, and this is where, in my view, this administration has been very inconsistent, is that Senator Manchin's point is that we're trying to pass this legislation to bring back the production in America. We have incredible natural resources in America. My state certainly does, West Virginia certainly does, and where we should be prioritizing first is producing and mining and developing in the United States. Why? It helps our workers, it helps our national security, and it helps the environment. We have the highest environmental standards in the world on all of these projects. Let me just show you this. This is an emission chart I like to show. This is 2005 to 2020. We are the leader, that's the United States, in the reduction of emissions, global emissions. China, India, so many other countries, Russia, Iran, have increased. We have dramatically decreased. Why? Because of the revolution in the production of natural gas. We are the leader in reducing global emissions. And so if we do it in America, it benefits the economy, it benefits the environment, it benefits our workers, it benefits our national security. And on too many issues, particularly as it relates to my state, this administration has made sure we can't produce anything. And it's not right.
So Rich, you want to shut it on fact or pass?
And there are just some things that are not comfortable for white people. They're not comfortable for them to talk about the possibility that Africans were here before the Europeans. So what do you do with the heads in Mexico that you find at San Lorenzo, at Tres Zapotes? What do you do with those? All right? You ignore them. What do you do with Columbus's diary that says the Africans know a way to the west, but it goes around the doldrums, we would never survive? What do you do with that? You ignore it. What do you do with Balboa's diary that says we came upon this African village in the isthmus? How did these Africans get here? What do you do with that? You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth that the Europeans were here first. What do you do with all of this written literature and history that says that Abubakar II of Mali sent 200 ships to the west? One came back and said they were afraid that the others disappeared. And then to have Balboa find this village that looks just like Mali, where he was, what do you do with this information? You ignore it. You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth of white superiority. That's what our whole educational process is devoted to. What do you do with this whole history? This is a written history, my dear. Written. I'm not talking about hearsay. I'm not talking about a griot said this. I'm not talking about something handed down from one generation to the other through voice. I'm talking about written history of the Egyptians. What do you do with this? You ignore it.
Where is the international protection the Palestinian people is entitled to when the occupying power violates international law and harms those it is obliged to protect? Aren't Palestinians' lives worth saving? The Palestinian civilians killed, the Palestinian children killed in occupied Palestine could have been spared. Isn't that a moral and legal obligation and a contribution to peace? Why nothing is done when those killed are Palestinians? We need to think hard of what logic we want to see prevail here. If this is about vengeance, then many Palestinians will feel they have much to avenge. If this is about peace, then the way to it is not through further entrenching oppression and occupation, but by ending it. You cannot say nothing justifies killing Israelis and then provide justification for killing Palestinians. We are not subhumans. Let me repeat, we are not subhumans. We will never accept a rhetoric that denigrates our humanity and reneges our rights.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
I mean, she ain't lying. The moment you disagree, all that love and positivity stuff goes right out the window.
So ever since I've showed my support to Donald Trump, the internet has called me a clown. I'm not educated. I'm not black. They wish Donald Trump would rape my daughters. They want me to go jump off a bridge. I mean, the amount of hateful things that people are leaving under my comments, it's so disgusting. You guys are so for love and peace and unity, but actually you guys are the most hateful people. You guys are a bunch of snowflakes. You can't handle somebody just stating their opinion. You can support Kamala Harris on your page. That's fine. That's okay. I don't expect anybody or everybody to think like me. So it's wild to me.
Did you know that Hitler was also the Führer when it came to taking drugs? My name's Norman Ohler. I wrote a book called Blitzed, and it's about the massive use, or rather abuse, of drugs in Nazi Germany. Stage 1 is from 1936 to 41. He was basically taking vitamins and glucose. When he met Morell in 1936, who quickly became his personal physician, and Morell said, I can give you vitamin injections and you immediately will feel amazing and you will never get a cold, Hitler thought, this is my man. He woke up and he rolled back the sleeve of his pajama, and Morell came in and gave him a vitamin injection and a glucose injection, and Hitler had had his breakfast. Stage 2 started in the fall of 1941 when the war against Russia turned bad, and he started to take lots of hormones and steroids and barbiturates. He had high fever and diarrhea, so he was quite sick. They called it the Russian flu. For the first time, he got hormone injections from animals, pig liver extracts. And it actually worked. He was back in the briefing the next day, and I mean, today we would say these are doping agents. Stage 3 started in the summer of 1943, and it is when he was turning to very hard drugs. In July of 43, he had a decisive meeting with Mussolini, because Mussolini wanted to leave with Italy the evil Axis. He wanted to leave, and Hitler was very depressed about that. And Morell, on that day in July, for the first time used a drug called Eukodal, which is a half-synthetic opiate, an opioid, a pharmacological cousin of heroin, you could say, but with a much stronger euphoric momentum to it. And after a good shot of Eukodal, you feel extremely good. And this is exactly what happened to Hitler. And there's reports from that meeting with Mussolini where he just didn't stop talking and was in such a euphoric mood that he easily convinced Mussolini to stay on board. Hitler takes cocaine on over 50 occasions, and not a soft dosage of cocaine. I mean, this is pure stuff that the SS delivered. So at times he got cocaine and Eukodal in a period of a few hours, which in drug terms would be called the speedball. He used the drugs to keep his convictions that he formed when he wasn't already on drugs. He just left reality at a point when he should have realized that his delusional ideas of beating the whole world was what they were, namely delusional and totally irrational and not in touch with reality at all.
Some interesting historical knowledge and everything along those lines. Let's get back to a couple of news items and then we'll wrap it up on World Politics for this particular edition and everything along this line. So it'll be an abbreviated version. But Pakistan and China proposed a 5-part peace plan for the Middle East. So that was reported earlier today. Pakistan envoyed to visit China as U.S.-Iran talks remain nebulous. So definitely it looks like there's a 5-point initiative for peace and calls for immediate halt of hostilities. So we'll see if this plays out or doesn't play out. Iranian media says desalination plant on Gulf Island is non-functional after airstrikes. So definitely that is something that people are talking about as well. And Trump zigzags on Iran, claiming great progress, but making threats. So Trump renews threats against Iranian oil and energy. So that's definitely something that folks are talking about as well. And Trump threats to blow up the desalination plants in an effort or in a deal to reach agreement and all along those lines. But Trump threatens to blow up desalination plants in Iran if no deal is reached. So he's threatening to obliterate Iran's energy and water infrastructure and all along those lines. And Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen attacked Israel for the first time in a war. A Houthi missile attack on Israel raises concerns about Red Sea shipping route being blocked. So after backing Iran with the Israeli strikes, Houthis avoid further escalation for now. But that's just for now. We'll see if they actually find some additional things that they're going to do in terms of stopping some of these attacks. So we'll see how this all plays out. The Houthis have joined the Gulf War through limited attacks on Israel, aiming to support Iran, deter U.S. intervention, and pressure Saudi Arabia while avoiding full escalation. So it looks like the Houthis are getting involved as well. And definitely that's something that people will be talking about is who else is getting involved in the war and how big of a war will it be and all along those lines. So definitely that's something that people are paying attention to and definitely trying to keep their heads wrapped around and all in that space. So definitely looks like there's a lot of conflicts that are going on, and we'll see which ones of these President Trump can get us out of, if any, and all along those lines. So there's definitely a lot of conversation about a number of these world events that are going on and how they are being handled by various sources and by various people and all along those lines. So definitely lots going on, and we'll be covering a lot of this on tomorrow's show, which will be, which one do we got tomorrow? World Edition, and we don't have a guest on that day, but we'll have one discussing AI on Friday and everything like that. Cyber warfare is starting to get personal in the war between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. So Iranian-linked groups is hacked into at least 50 security cameras in Israel. So hacked hospitals, hidden spyware in conflict shows how digital fight is ingrained in warfare. So definitely it looks like people are still trying to figure that out as well. And Asia barters for scarce energy as Iran crisis throttles supplies. Photos show the effects of the Iran war on global energy worldwide, and a lot of different countries are responding in different ways. Like I said earlier, it looks like the social media folks are being attacked in various ways. Let's see what other news stories we've got, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up very shortly and everything like that. But yeah, lots going on in the world and around the world, but countless horror stories are linked to social media, but a ban for children isn't a cut and dried case. So that's even what some people are saying in some of these conversations and in a lot of these kind of situations. So we'll see how this all goes and what people have to say as we get further into the discussions about how people are reacting to a number of these stories and what it's meaning to them as well. So lots going on in the world. Always glad to have that conversation on world politics and everything like that. So we're going to see if there's any other stories we want to get to really quickly before we get ready to wrap things up and see what other folks' reactions might be to the news science as well. I know Rick has become a major researcher because he's one of our researchers, finding all kinds of things that we can think about as we are doing this World Politics show. U.S. drops bunker buster bombs on Iranian ammunition depot. Trump shares video of bombing in parts of Iran. Well, it's actually in the Iranian city of Isfahan. And definitely that is something that he's promised that there can be more of and all along those lines. So we'll be interested to see how this all plays out from the sense of our community. U.S. conservatives watch nervously as Orban faces a tough test in the Hungary vote. So that's definitely something that people are talking about, is Orban faces toughest electoral challenge since 2010, trailing the TISA party in polls. McGar's campaign focuses on corruption, nose up. And Megar's campaign focuses on corruption, low wages, and rising food prices. Trump's support seems unlikely to sway elections dominated by domestic issues. U.S. conservatives have been long pointed to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban as proof that a Western leader could crack down on immigration, defy global institutions, and wage war in woke liberalism and still win elections. But as Hungary heads toward April 12th parliamentary. Let's see if there's any other stories we want to get to. Otherwise, we're ready to wrap it up since none of the fellows came by on this particular edition of World Politics and everything like that. So let's see if there's any other news items that we want to get to. Otherwise, we'll get ready to wrap things up very shortly as we reported on a lot of the political landscape and everything like that. So I think we'll get ready to get on out of here. And we've got the show that will be coming up with Mama Noni at the 6 o'clock hour. So that'll be coming up very shortly as well. But right now, we're going to get on out of here. Hope that y'all enjoyed hearing some of the things going on politically, as well as some of the things that I learned from Representative Clyburn.